Member for Oak Bay, Gordon Head.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It gives me great honour to rise today to pay tribute to a remarkable constituent, Mr. John Hillman. At the age of 101, Mr. Hillman set a goal of raising $101,000 for Save the Children Canada's Emergency COVID Relief Fund by completing 101 laps around the courtyard of his residence at the Carlton House in Oak Bay. He was inspired by 100-year-old war veteran Tom Moore, who raised over $55 million for the UK's National Health Service by walking around his garden 100 times with a walker. Mr. Hillman not only completed the 101 laps, plus a victory lap, but he easily surpassed expectations by raising a total of $166,551. Mr. Hillman was born in Newport, Wales in 1919. Like all young Welshmen at the time, he was an avid rugby player. In fact, Mr. Hillman's father, Jack, represented Wales on their national team. John, on the other hand, went on to compete for Wales in fencing. At the age of 17, and with little prospect for local employment, Mr. Hillman left Wales to join the Royal Air Force. In 1939, he and his squadron were posted to France, where Mr. Hillman served as a wireless operator. As Allied forces fled to Dunkirk ahead of the rapidly advancing Wehrmacht, John Hillman and the other 59 members of his squadron were cut off and left behind. They were told this: "You lads stay behind, clean up, and make your way back as best you can." Their goal was to head south to board the English troop carrier, the HMT Lancastria. Blessed with a stroke of good luck, Mr. Hillman arrived in the French port of Saint-Nazaire a day late, and so missed his opportunity to board the ship. Tragically, on June the 17th, 1940, just offshore from the port, the Lancastria was bombed and sank in just 20 minutes. Some 4,000 men and women and children died in what remains the greatest loss of life in British maritime history. Mr. Hillman subsequently made his way northwards to Brest, where he was able to escape to England on a Royal Navy destroyer. It was in England, Honourable Speaker, that Mr. Hillman met and married his wife, Irene. The couple have been married for a remarkable 78 years, and when their daughter also married a Canadian, Mr. and Mrs. Hillman started to visit Canada. Mr. Hillman eventually retired in Ottawa in 1988 from his career as an electrical engineer, and after a brief return to the UK, Mr. and Mrs. Hillman moved back to Canada and settled in a house on Beach Drive in Oak Bay. When asked why he undertook the fundraiser, John Hillman said this: "I owed Canada something." A truly humble man, Mr. Hillman has a wonderful sense of humour and brings joy to all who know him. As a lovely tribute to support Mr. Hillman's, his 9-year-old great-grandson did a parallel walk in Kingston, Ontario. What did Mr. Hillman do when he attained his goal of 101 laps? "I had a whole cold beer," he said. Now that, Honourable Speaker, was truly well-deserved. Please join me, Honourable Speaker, and members of the gallery, in celebrating the remarkable accomplishments of Mr. John Hillman. Thank you.